Cootie Williams, Duke Ellington's trumpet soloist, called Charlie Bird Parker the greatest individual musician that ever lived. And in the history of jazz, there had never been one man who influenced all instruments. So what exactly did Bird do to have such influence, and how did he do it all before dying at only 34 years old? In this episode of Soundfield, we'll take a brief look at how Parker's relentless practicing helped inspire an evolution in bebop with another Kansas City jazz musician. There are many subgenres of jazz, including Parker's bebop, but there's one really easy way to differentiate bebop from all other types. All you gotta do is try to dance to it when you hear it. Go ahead and try.
When we out together, dancing cheek to cheek.
Here's the thing. Charlie Parker didn't care if you danced to his music. He said himself, he's not an entertainer, but an artist. His desire to be an artist and to improvise began at an early age in his hometown of Kansas City. To understand Charlie Parker's influence, you first have to understand how bebop came about and how it differs from other jazz styles. Now, jazz is intricate to say the least, and historically, there's a lot of moving parts. So here's a brief summary. Musically, jazz owes its roots to three genres: the rhythm of ragtime, the orchestral instruments of concert music, most notably from Sicilian traditions, and the feeling of the blues. Geographically, there are four cradles of jazz: New York, Chicago, Kansas City, and the birthplace of the genre, New Orleans. Born during the start of the 20th century, jazz grew out of African-American communities, and bands often consisted of the cornet or trumpet, tuba, banjo, and trombone. Chicago replaced the tuba and banjo with upright bass and guitar, and added a drum kit. Greater solo space, fixed ensembles, and a more prominent role for the rhythm section are key. You can really hear that in Benny Goodman's Sing, Sing, Sing. At the same time, Kansas City emphasized larger ensembles, saxophone sections, the blues, riff melodies, and strong walking bass. During the late 1920s, New York City began to experience a thriving nightlife scene with an overabundance of venues available. Over the next decade, jazz orchestras from both Chicago and Kansas City packed up and headed to Manhattan. This surge of talent allowed New York City to adapt and develop different types of jazz, most notably big band swing music. For example, listen to Duke Ellington's It Don't Mean a Thing. During World War II, however, with musicians joining the military and heading overseas, these large orchestras began to shrink. For this reason, the 1940s saw a surge in smaller ensembles, such as quartets and quintets. Groups often consisted of one or two horns, usually saxophone and or trumpet, bass, drums, and piano. By nature of being a smaller ensemble, improvisation and interaction flourished. Enter Charlie Parker, and the clubs he visited on 12th and Vine in Kansas City, where all-night jam sessions acted as the heartbeat of the local jazz scene. One night, at just 16 years old, Bird tried jamming but fumbled several times. The session ended abruptly when Joe Jones, Basie's drummer, dropped his cymbal on the floor. Young Parker was not talented enough to keep up with the musical veterans. Humiliated, Charlie sulked back home and began practicing diligently, vowing to return to 12th Street and, quote, show those cats. To tell us more about the next steps of Charlie's journey, I reached out to Chuck Haddix, a Charlie Parker biographer and the director of the Marr Sound Archives, a collection of 380,000 historic sound recordings at the University of Missouri, Kansas City.
Next summer, he went back to Musser's, and Musser's is in the Ozarks area of Missouri. It's known as Little Dixie. It's racially hostile territory, so they stayed on site at the resort. Since he couldn't go out to the clubs or do anything like that, he took that time to practice his horn, and he went to what is often referred to as woodshedding. And he mastered his horn, and according to all accounts, when he returned to Kansas City, the fall of 1937, he was musically a transformed musician.
You said the woodshed. And historically, that's the place you go where nobody can hear you. You can just express yourself the fullest, and you get all your chops out. But that's a word that has been adopted by the drum community. we're literally shedding the wood on our sticks, and we're like, it's the mentality that like we're in the woodshed, so we got to like give our best. We got to go there. We got to try new things. We got to take what we can take from each other and share what we can share. It's those long hours in the shed that change your playing experience, that change what you're able to output.
One night in 1939, after returning to the jazz scene in New York, Charlie Parker was playing Cherokee in a jam session with guitarist William Biddy Fleet when he hit upon a method for developing his solos that enabled one of his main musical innovations. He realized that the 12 semitones of the chromatic scale can lead melodically to any key, breaking some of the confines of simpler jazz soloing. To tell us more about Charlie's innovation, we talked to renowned Kansas City jazz musician Bobby Watson.
But I know that I'm talking to a legend right now, to jazz royalty. I know that that's true.
Yeah, I'm a legend in my own mind.
Can you talk about a little bit of his discovery of the semitone changes?
All Charlie Parker did was take Lester Young,
Yeah.
Prez, and he took it and he extended that. Prez was a very lyrical player. He composed on top of the changes. A semitone in my world is a half step, which is going from this. And as opposed to a whole step. Now, if you go a bunch of these, you know, and on up, if you do it one after the other, it's a chromatic scale.
The sauciest stuff, the most killingest stuff is little chunks of chromatic movement.
Because here's the thing, it depends on the rhythm of how you play the chromatic. Say if I outline a dominant chord. Now, if I want to outline those chords using a chromatic scale, I would emphasize. So I go. So see, so it sounds like it fits that. It's the same notes, but it's where I put the accents that make it usable.
It takes the listener on a roller coaster ride, because he's starting in a place and you're not sure. His accent seems like it's going to throw you off, but it always ends up making sense. That's so similar to like drummers that I end up listening to that I like. Some cats who's like, oh, what's happening? Oh, is it going to keep the beat? Oh, it stayed right on beat. Or even like some rappers.
That's it. We're talking about Bird, and we're talking about rhythm. A strong rhythm is better than a good note. It's Cherokee for your listeners. You know, it kind of goes like this. Then it repeats again.
Right.
Prez would probably do something like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then Bird would take it and go. He was still melodic.
It was extended in depth.
Yeah, at lightning speed, you could change directions, adapt. It didn't matter where he started an idea or where he ended an idea. And all these things shape my image of what I think Bird was and what the qualities he possessed.
Bird's technique of blistering rhythm and spontaneous extended chromatic chord structure that he honed through his time in the woodshed brought him a newfound legitimacy in the national jazz scene. This eventually led to him headlining the opening night of the New York jazz club Birdland that will become his namesake. Not only did his style shape what came to be known as bebop, but it also influenced the styles of legends that he played alongside, from Dizzy Gillespie to Thelonious Monk to Miles Davis to John Coltrane. Elements of the resulting bebop style have gone on to influence legendary MCs like Rakim,
Think that I'm a new jack, but only if they knew that. They who think wrong, or they who can't do that.
to the syncopated rhythms of Tool drummer Danny Carey, to contemporary jazz composers like Kamasi Washington. Tracking the influences of Parker's bebop is like trying to follow all the ripples across the face of a massive lake. The effect stretches so far that it simply informs the subconscious of nearly every aspect of music made in the present day. Bebop was about freedom of expression and escaping the harmonic and melodic restraints imposed by the old musical order. So above all the technical innovations Parker brought to the world of music, it's the spirit of imagination and emphasis on imparting your own style that stands as his lasting legacy. That's all we have on Charlie Parker's bebop. But if you want to see more, check out Nare's video journey in understanding the style from the lens of a classically trained musician. In the meantime, I'm going to be in the woodshed.
Now, if I was gonna do it, I would do it like this. You know, that's me.